Hello, thank you for joining me today. My name is Dennis. I hope you're doing well, and welcome to my art channel. Today is a very special day. We're celebrating 100 subscribers on the channel. Thank you so much, you all. I'm so happy to be able to make this here. I've got something special. I've been having this planned for a little while here. I'm planning to make 100 paintings for 100 subs. I feel like I am doing this as efficiently as I can, I will say. Like, I'm not doing 100 individual paintings. I'm doing this my own way. I've got the largest piece of watercolor paper that I could find. This is a sheet about if I'm remembering right, it's 30 inches by 22.5 inches. Quite a large size. I had to pull the camera back a little bit to get it to fit on screen, and even then, you can see it's cutting off the edges anyways, so now we're going to be zooming in on the center here momentarily. No wonder. But I'm here with a mission. I'm trying to make 100 paintings out of this one painting. So something that I'm doing a little differently is I'm not thinking so much about the overall aesthetic and the overall composition of this painting. I'm thinking more of, I need to cover every single square inch, because every square inch needs to be interesting, because once this gets cut, I'm not going to be able to really control so much what the composition ends up being. I could have pre-gridded this whole thing. I mean, to make 100 pieces, so you just gotta divide each side into 10. That's not too hard, but I feel like I don't want perfect 100 pieces here. I feel like I'm seeking a bit of imperfection here, if you will. Like, I want these to be true to just the moment here. I just feel really grateful for you to be here and celebrate with me. We got all of the paints going down on literally the biggest piece of paper I've ever painted on. I don't know if it gets any bigger than this. I feel like it would have to come straight off of a roll in order to increase the size here. This actually came out of like a drawer at the art store, like a dedicated kind of spot for them. I'm curious actually now if I can get even larger watercolor paper than this, although I feel like I wouldn't be able to afford a roll if that's the only option available, because this is not cheap paper, I will say. I believe this was about $10 for a sheet, which I guess isn't. I honestly don't know how to quantify the cost on this thing, because it is substantially more than just a normal kind of piece of paper out of a pad of watercolor paper. But at the same time, it feels, like I'm just making one painting here. That's the price of a mini canvas, But I digress. It's not about the price. It's about the the magnitude, the monumental painting that I'm making with it. I don't want to emphasize the price just because I feel like it's unusual to be painting on something so large without pre-cutting or sizing down or having any other kind of plans than just painting straight onto this. I kind of want to make another, just actually challenging to make this the size of the painting, just fully focus on this. I feel like it's really hard. Actually, I'm not painted in this size of watercolor before. I have done drawings larger than this and paintings larger than this in other mediums, but I feel like the problem here is just the medium being this vessel of water and this palette of colors. I'd probably have an easier time if I started pressing the tubes, my tubes of watercolor paint straight onto the paper, but then that would also be a process I haven't really used before. I feel like the level of saturation of having that straight pigment on the paper would be too much, something that I'm not quite ready for, but something to experiment with next time. It's something I definitely do using acrylic paints. I just press the tube straight onto the canvas, same thing with oils, but I don't do that so much with the watercolors. I feel like I have to dilute it first, let it harden, and then re-soften it, and then go at it again. That kind of process, but maybe I'm limiting myself in that way. Anyways, the painting's really developed here. I've got all sorts of colors. I'm trying to pull every single one out of the palette, and now I'm going a little bit wild. This is a method called dry brushing for the watercolor. I've already let the base layer dry a fair bit at this point. With the size of the paper, it's really easy for it to start to dry in certain areas. I noticed that I was neglecting the top left section a fair bit, and so that was drying out first. But now that the paper's not so wet, it's easy to get a wet brush and just start spreading a whole bunch of vibrant watercolor around. It's very noticeable, these kind of marks where they sort of break up and aren't perfectly saturated, not totally opaque spots. And I feel like I like this kind of action, and it reminds me maybe a little bit of like a wildness of like a Jackson Pollock painting or something like that. Not that I'm going for that sort of vibe, but just what those kind of marks remind me of. Of course, I'm always interested in what this reminds you of, so please let me know in those comments down below. That said, this isn't the finish quite yet. I am doing a little bit of cleanup around the desk, but there's still a bit of unfinishedness to the painting here. I feel there are a couple of spots still where there isn't enough tension and variation, and so when it gets cut, it's not going to be quite as cool. And I am, still having the goal in mind that it isn't one painting here. There's 100 to make out of this. That's quite a lot. I feel like my fingers are still a little numb from doing the whole thing, but you'll get to see that in a second why my fingers are a little tight right now. I'm going in with a bit of the indigo, just darkening that left section. I feel like I was saying, with the top left being my most neglected, I do need to fill in some of those spots, but call it right there, I believe. Still got some cleaning to do. You can see that great mark of blue where the indigo just went. Gonna have to magic erase the desk once again, but it's still cool to see the white table take on all the different colors of the palette. It's not too big of an issue. It's just watercolor. Just need some water to clean up. But here, I'm divvying up the paper. Got a trusty ruler, and width divided by 10, 30 inches divided by 10, 3 inches wide per piece. Gonna be ripping it here using a trusty straight edge, trusty level. That's what they call these things. Sorry, I'm It is not a normal art tool, I will say, but it is, I didn't want to use a wooden yardstick for this. I feel like metal is a little better to get a cleaner kind of edge. Even then you can see though, my edges are pretty jaggedy with this tool. Probably could have used something to get a little bit of a cleaner line. I wish I had this ruler just 2 times longer. I'm gonna probably put on my art supply list, get a metal yardstick. I've had this ruler actually for I've had this for almost like my whole life now. I feel like it's definitely a go-to, having a metal ruler. Easy for using pen, pencil, doesn't leave marks. But here, it's a nice sharp edge to be able to run the paper against. And on the side, it's 2 1/4 for the length on each of these pieces. And I will spare you the trouble of watching this whole ordeal. I believe this was like 30 or 40 minutes of cutting in total, trying to get these not perfect but pretty evenly distributed. Don't really mind having them sometimes be off center. I'm not really like using like a T-square or anything to get perfect 90 degrees even, but at the end of the day, even if a few of them are bigger than the rest, and a couple of them I honestly accidentally ripped in half, they're still pretty uniform. They're pretty consistently inconsistent, if you know what I mean. And they remind me a little bit of trading cards here, so I decided to give them a little pile shuffle. Kind of funny thinking about it. 100 pieces of art here, 100 cards in a Magic Commander deck, so kind of fun to play around with them as if they were trading cards. But yeah, now I got 100 little paintings to play around with. I've been shuffling them, and I got all sorts of ways to lay them out and distribute them. Have some fun with. Thank you so much for making this possible. I feel like in a way each of these paintings represents one of you, my wonderful subscribers. It's kind of crazy actually to have a physical representation of it, because it's so much more than you realize once it's a physical thing, right? Thank you once again, and thank you for watching the whole way through. Leave a comment if you've been here the whole time. Say a good 100, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Hope to see you here next week in the next video. Take care. Peace.